City.
Woo! Woo!
And this work can only happen if this group right here on the steps work together. So I want to give a big shout out to all my colleagues. That makes the largest progressive caucus in New York City Council history. I want to give a shout out to our labor partners here. I want to give a shout out to the Working Families Party. Make the road, New Economy Project, and countless others dedicated to making New York City a transformative city that works for all. I want to pass it to my colleagues.
Right, come on, bring it.
So my name's Lincoln Ressler with the great Shahana Adib. I have the privilege of co-chairing the Progressive Caucus. I firstly just want to say thank you. Thank you to our amazing vice chairs, Jen Gutierrez and Carmen De La Rosa. Thank you to each and every one of the amazing members of the Progressive Caucus, Farrah Lewis, Althea and Stevens, Jacob Krishna, Amanda Farias, Gio Say, Tiffany Kaban, Sandy Nurse, Alexa Aviles, Crystal Hudson, Chris Marte, and Gail Brewer. Let's give them a round of applause. I want to thank all of the advocates that have been pushing this extraordinary legislative agenda, and I want to give a special shout out to our director of the Progressive Caucus in the back, Emily Mayer. We are the largest Progressive Caucus in New York City.
That's right.
34 members deep. You know what's special about the number 34? Veto proof. You heard me over there? Veto proof. That's what it means. The mayor's all over the place. But this is the agenda we need. This is the agenda we were elected on. This is the agenda we will deliver. When this caucus is unified, when this caucus is organized, we are going to make racial justice happen. We're going to make criminal justice happen. We're going to make housing justice happen. Environmental justice. We can do this. But the work needs to happen now. Each and every one of these bills is necessary. It is urgent. And with the work of this great coalition of advocates behind us and with an organized caucus, I know we can make it happen. So when I say, what do you want? We say what? What do we want?
Progressive agenda.
When do we want it?
Now.
What do we want?
Progressive agenda.
When do we want it?
Now.
Make it happen.
So we've got a lot of speakers to talk through what the priorities are, and we've got incredible members leading on our 20-bill package. I will start us off just highlighting the two that are in this package. One is to expand paid sick and safe leave for gig workers. I'm proud to have the support of Labor, of Workers' Justice Project, and my colleagues to ensure that every single worker is guaranteed paid sick and safe leave. This ensures that our delivery workers don't have to work when they're sick, which is what they've been doing. And so I'm proud to have this coalition to support in the passage of this bill. The second is a part of the zero waste package, which I'm gonna pass to Sandy Nurse in a bit. My bill is to pass universal mandatory composting in our city, the quickest way to tackle climate change in our city. And it's got a veto-proof majority signed up. As our first speaker, well, I'm going to have Lincoln share his bill.
Oh, right. I just want to pass the mic to the founding co-chair of the Progressive Caucus, somebody who's been an ally and a guide to each of the members of this caucus, our New York City Controller, Brad Lamb.
It is beautiful to be out here with all of you this morning. I'm New York City Controller Brad Lander. I am indeed proud, along with Melissa Margarito, to be one of the founding co-chairs of the Progressive Caucus over 10 years ago. But I gotta tell you, this Progressive Caucus is fiercer, is smarter, is more diverse, is more badass, works with its allies, this vision of a progressive agenda, of a New York City where everybody's got a safe, decent place to live, where kids all know that they could go to a high-quality integrated school, where you've got a pathway to a good job, where you know there'll be safety in your community in a way that you and your neighbors produce together, where your city will have your back. It is a powerful vision. It is a New York vision. You know, at the moment when we've got folks walking up here from Venezuela, 7 weeks coming out of the jungles, and we also have folks who are like Google workers moving their families here. The future of New York City is where all those kids go to school together, where every one of their families has a decent place to live, and that agenda is what will be brought by the powerful progressive agenda that this movement is building. One thing I really like about what this Progressive Caucus is doing is pushing on creative powers that New York City has that we don't always use to elevate that set of progressive ideas. So Shahana spoke about the bill to give paid sick leave to gig workers. That's within New York City's power, and yet no city or state and the U.S. hasn't done it, and the New York City Council can be the first place to do it in the United States. I love the bills about using our money to advance justice, by supporting a public bank and by looking at what our money's doing when it's in our accounts. We've tried to do that in the Comptroller's office by standing up to BlackRock on climate and standing up to Wells Fargo when they discriminate against black homeowners. I love that the Progressive Caucus is thinking about how we deploy our money in support of our values. And finally, the housing agenda here to say, yes, of course we need more housing in New York City, but more of that housing has to be outside of the speculative marketplace, has to be things like a 21st century Mitchell-Lama, has to be owned by our families and our communities and permanently affordable, building our land trust, building the footprint of social housing in New York City. That is the agenda that helps get us the New York that we will all be so lucky to live in. Thanks very much, John. Thank you, Progressive Caucus. Progressive agenda.
Now I'd like to call our champions leading the transparency and policing package. Councilmember Caban, Ose, Hudson and Aviles, and Victor Dempsey from the Abolish the Gang database.
Hey. Good morning, y'all. This is dope. Nothing gets me more fired up than being in community with you all. So thank you for all the work that you do. Give it up for yourselves. I could do the real quick, like wholeheartedly support this whole legislative agenda. We're gonna all be talking about sort of like the progressive bona fides of each piece of legislation. But I want to use my little time for us to talk about power and how important not just this suite of legislation and the fact that they are in one place in relationship to one another, but the fact that it is grounded, anchored, and rooted by the leadership and work that the people behind me do. And that has everything to do with how we are going to be able to build the power necessary to pass this. Because understanding that each of these pieces of legislation alone is not going to do the work of making our city safer and healthier overall, but is in passing all of them and talking about all of them in relationship to one another. It is folks like the Hold Solitary Coalition showing up for the folks that make the road, who are going to show up for New Economy Project, who are going to show up for you and you and you and us collectively, because we know that power does not concede power. And if this cohort and this caucus is going to be able to use the muscle of all the members it has, it means building power outside of this institution. And we can't be afraid of that. And we are going to reclaim power, let people control, the people behind us take over that power to deliver the New York that we deserve. So I'm so proud, again, that we are including my bill that's going to require the NYPD to report on complaints of misconduct. I'm so proud to support all of it, but more than that, so proud to support the theory of change and the strategies we're going to use to get there. Thank you.
Councilmember Alexa Aviles!
Like, who's next? I don't know. I'm going to speak a little bit about How Many Stops Act, which is part of this incredible police accountability package. What I want to say is particularly everyone in this city wants to feel safe. forefront of racist and discriminatory policing. This is how we make informed decisions as a democracy, and is a first step to ensuring that true public safety is based on equity and dignity for all. So the How Many Stops Act is really about common sense, good government bills. Intro 538 and 586. We need sunlight. We need to know how our agencies do their work, how their resources are being spent. So I'll let my colleague, Councilmember Hudson, talk about the other. Councilmember Hudson!
Well, the bill number is not loading for me. I can't give you.
We can look it up. We can look it up.
Yeah, but essentially, I think many. No, it was a different one. It's okay. You got it.
Yeah.
There was.
Crystal.
There. 538.
Let's go.
Anyway, it's a package. We're all here together, but what I want to talk about is, I think everybody saw that after the murder of George Floyd, in my district, there was a police car that ran over and ran into a crowd of protesters, of peaceful protesters. And what we were unable to do after that happened was account for the number of times police use their vehicles as means to disrupt crowds, as a means to stop people. We have access to other bits of information, but we don't have access to how many times police are using their vehicles in these ways. And so what this bill does, which is the number I don't know, 538. What this bill does is allow us to have more transparency and accountability for the police in reporting how often they're using vehicles in these ways. So that's what that bill is about. But as Councilmember Caban said, and Councilmember Viles and our progressive co-chairs, is that this is about a progressive caucus that is bigger, badder, more people of color, more women than we've ever seen. And it's us who will actually show progress and deliver progress in New York City. So thank you.
Thank you.
Can we do a call and repeat first?
Yes!
I believe that we will win!
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 Wow, thank you so much. I'm so inspired and fired up by everyone that is out here with us today. I'm New York City Councilmember Chiose, representing the 36th District. I'm so proud to stand here in front of the organized, wonderful, badass progressive caucus that is really here to fight for the progressive future here in New York City. I have a bill, Intro 277, co-prime sponsored with Councilmember Althea Stevens. Yeah! And a lot of the words that we hear on the right now in the political zeitgeist is common sense. How come the right got to use those words, common sense, to describe their craziness? This bill is a bill that would uphold our Constitution. Intro 277 would ban the NYPD Strategic Response Group from breaking up nonviolent protests. How many of you protested in the summer of 2020? How many of you protested this year when Roe v. Wade was overturned? The NYPD Strategic Response Group, paid for by your taxpayer dollars, when we're in a time where we're hearing from this administration that we need to make cuts everywhere, is deployed to break up our protests, our nonviolent protests, and our upholding of the First Amendment right that we have in assembly. So what this bill would do is save our taxpayer dollars, allow us to organize, allow us to speak up about the injustice that we continue to see in this country, while also holding the administration accountable when they say that we need to make cuts everywhere. We need to make cuts everywhere. So I believe that we will win, not only for our progressive future, not only for racial justice and climate justice, but for all people that deserve dignity and respect here in New York City. And we cannot do it alone on ourselves inside. We need all of you with us every step of the way. Thank you very much.
There we go.
Peace, family!
Peace.
Peace, family!
Peace.
Today's a good day. Look at this. Give it up for the progressive movement.
database that the NYPD uses that is instrumentally racist. 90% of the people on the database are black and brown males. You cannot tell me that only black and brown males are in gangs. That's unheard of. So today, the Progressive Caucus stands with me and the coalition who is saying that enough is enough. We will not be surveillance. We will not be over-policed. We're saying enough. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because, like I said, I have the coalition here, and Victor Dempsey has been by my side for the last couple of years. Give it up for Victor. He has been a part of the coalition. Him and Joe's mom, who's back there. He's been doing this work with me for a number of years, and now we are here to continue to fight to get this bill passed. We've been talking about this for years. And so he's going to give us some background information and all the work that we've been doing.
Let's go. Let's keep this energy going. Let's do a quick call and response. I'm going to say who keeps us safe. Y'all say we keep us safe. That's right. Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
Who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
I want to keep going up the energy of all the councilmen in the Progressive Caucus, and I appreciate everybody standing with not just the coalition, but with all New Yorkers. We have to make our people understand this database is a secret database. Nobody knew about it until our professor, Babe Howell, looked it up and forwarded the request. And we got all the information back. 47,000 New Yorkers, black and brown.
That ain't right.
Let me show you something. The youngest person on that database, 10 years old. Wow. The oldest person on the database, 87, excuse me. So not only are we criminalizing generations, we're criminalizing generations. NYPD thinks the solution to this is locking people up. We're here to tell you it is not. We just chanted, who keeps us safe?
We keep us safe.
That's a real statement. I stand here before you as a former gang member. I stand here before you as formerly incarcerated. But now I'm able to go back in the same communities and work with these young men and women to identify the root causes to this. We work with the credible messengers. We work with correspondents. We check in with as many people as we can throughout the city. And we're saying if you want to get to the root cause and end this, work with us and put the proper resources back into the communities and stop criminalizing everybody. But wait, there is a little bit more. You do not, I repeat, you do not have to commit a criminal act to be added to the database. Guess what? I just told all of y'all I'm formerly gang involved. Unfortunately, I'm on the database. Now, guess what? Everybody who followed my chain, you're all associated with me, so now you're on the database. We can laugh at it now, but is it right? No. That's how this database is operating. Guilty by association. So I'm here to ask everybody, please stand with the electors in the Progressive Caucus. Follow the gang database. We are on a mission to remove it. We don't want to fix it. We don't want to reform it. We don't want to change it. We do not need this database to address gang violence in New York because we the people can do it ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor, and thank you for your advocacy. We're going to do a quick call and response. I'm going to ask y'all some questions and you're going to say win, right? We're going to pass this progressive agenda and then we're going to what? Win! We're going to finally center black and brown people in the conversation around equity and then we're going to win! We're going to pass the progressive agenda and then we're going to win! Next up, I want to bring up Councilmember Carlina Rivera and Councilmember Gail Brewer. Yeah. All right. How's everybody feeling? I just want to say I'm very, very proud to be a prime sponsor on 3 of the bills on this agenda. And I want to thank the leadership because these are bold steps. These are pieces of legislation that previous councils would not pass. They did not have the political will to stand up here and say the truth that needs to be spoken. So I am a proud prime sponsor to abolish the gang database. Yeah. I am a proud prime sponsor to end solitary confinement once again. And we have seen the pushback on those bills over and over and over again. And I will just say I think one of the biggest gangs in New York City is the Corrections Officers Union. That's right. Put it right out there. Because the way that they have been bullying council members for standing up against human torture is unacceptable. So with that, I'm going to just talk a little bit about another bill that I know
people who have been historically disenfranchised, because I truly believe that housing is healthcare. So with that, I have introduced the Community Opportunity to Purchase Act. Let's go, COPA. That's what I'm talking about. I have a lot of people to thank. The New Economy Project, the New York City Community Land Trust Initiative. This land is ours, CLT. A&HD, Supportive Housing Network, everyone who's brought the legislation this far. In 2020, we introduced this bill to give tenants and the organizations that support them a fair shot to afford housing in what's otherwise a hyper-competitive and oftentimes insurmountable housing market. They are creating a city for the rich in which only wealthy venture capital-backed companies and organizations are able to bid on these contracts and build in this city. We know over the past 20 years, the jobs that we have added, they are not really calculating to how much housing we need. And what is obvious about that? 63,000 people are in our shelter system right now. Tens of thousands of them are children. 20,000 asylum seekers have come to this city looking for a new beginning. We have the talent, we have the resources, but we have to make sure that we put them in the hands of affordable housing developers and community land trusts who truly understand that our land is for the people. So, with that, COPA gives nonprofit affordable housing and community developers, community land trusts, and other critical organizations a right of first refusal on apartment buildings or other properties listed for sale in New York City. It's just so simple. This bill is simple. It gets those who provide actual affordable housing, income targeted, at different AMIs, even footing for those who are building housing purely for profit. So COPA will not only stop private equity from swooping in on cheaper properties, but stem the tide of evictions some landlords are continuing to unleash, and we do not even have the legal counsel available in our court system to keep up with the people that are being evicted. This council passed the right to counsel, and we are not providing enough resources to keep up with that representation. So we're going hard. Are we, Progressive Caucus? So this has already worked. This is not something new. It's worked in Washington, D.C. It's worked in San Francisco. Let's bring it home. Let's bring it to the 5 boroughs, and let's do it right now.
Thank you very much. So one of the other ways to provide real affordable housing is to have a land bank. And the issue here is that all across the state of New York, land banks exist, but not here. So they exist in counties. All you have to do is get bonded money, find vacant property, find a lien, find a place that can build affordable housing into perpetuity. Because one of the problems is even some affordable housing the nonprofits have, they sell it to developers. And that would not happen if you had a land bank. Allegheny County, Albany, Broome, Buffalo, Erie, Capital Region, Cattaraugus, Chemung, Dutchess, Finger Lakes, Mohawk, Syracuse, Kingston, they all have them. And Ohio has them all across the state. So what's wrong with New York City? We need land banks here. I want to thank the New Economy Project, but it would be a situation where we can create affordable units, prevailing wages, and make sure that the community is in charge with a board of directors that represents the community. That is how you keep real affordable housing in the city of New York. And like I said, it exists all around the state. So there's no reason why we can't do it here. It's not even politically a question. We just have to make sure that we do it. And that means that if you have a building, that instead of selling it to the developer as a lien, give it to the land bank. If you have a piece of vacant property, give it to the land bank. If you have a situation where there's any opportunity for building affordable housing on public land,
give it to the land bank. There it is. Give it to the land bank, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're gonna do a
the agenda. Movements set the agenda. We are facilitating that here in this institution. That's right. So it's because of the grassroots work of groups like Make the Road in My Backyard, ECR Community Land Trust, that someone like myself, who is a leftist, can run and win an election. And so I'm really proud to stand here today with you all. There is no progressive left movement if we are not facing the existential threat that we all face of the climate crisis. We have to address this head on. It has to be a priority for this administration and this council. So I'm really proud to advocate for the zero waste package. We have 40 to 42 sponsors on this. The council's already sold. We're already ready to go. We need this administration to put it forward. This bill will have universal, curbside, mandatory organics collection program. It is one of the fastest, most concrete ways that we can bring down the 1.7 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions that New York City trash has every year. So I'm really proud to stand with you all. I know we're going to make it happen. Shout out to the New York Lawyers for Public Interest. Shout out to the National Resource Defense Fund. And thank you to everyone who's here today.
Thank you. Single-handedly doing away with the rats in New York City. Thank you. She's so radical. Yeah. She's been holding that in. All right, we're the progressive caucus. We're not the comedic caucus. Next up, I want to bring a trailblazer. When we talk about justice, when we talk about centering the most disenfranchised in electoral politics in New York City, we think of the Working Families Party. For many of us, they had our backs. They work with us here. They are in our communities every single day, demanding more, demanding justice. I want to bring up Soldier from the Working Families Party.
Thank you so much, Progressive Caucus. Thank you for everyone here who stands on the streets fighting for justice every day. I'm Sochi Mika from the Working Families Party today. And what we know is that New Yorkers are tired of reeling from crisis to crisis. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes. Whether it is deadly floods after every storm hits, whether it's impossible rents and overflowing eviction courts, whether it's horrific stories of violence against our loved ones at Rikers Island. That is the crisis that we face every day in New York City. The only response to crisis is strong leadership. New Yorkers are hungry for strong leadership. They're hungry for leaders with a vision and a plan and an agenda to steer us out of crisis towards a direction where we can all thrive. And the New York City Council Progressive Caucus is offering that leadership that says to New Yorkers, not only does government have your back, but government can and should anticipate and organize against crisis every day. This council has been hailed as the most diverse, progressive council in New York City's history. It's also showing itself as a council that leads and that hit the ground running on day one. We are so proud, both the role we've played in electing many of these leaders, but most importantly for them leading the charge every day to ensure that New Yorkers get what they need. This agenda would create a public bank that allows us to get away from our hostage relationship that we have with Wall Street banks, pushing for more transparency in the NYPD, creating permanently affordable housing, moving towards zero waste, expanding safe and sick time for gig workers. That is the positive plan that we need to transform and protect New Yorkers in this moment of crisis. So alongside community leaders, alongside movements for justice, alongside this leadership team and working New Yorkers across the city, we are ready to hit the ground running. We know that we have the power to make this happen. Now is the time for us to flex it and demand what we deserve. Thank you.
So are we fired up?
Yes!
Are we ready to keep winning?
Yes!
Are we ready to keep empowering people in our communities?
Yes!
Well, I'm Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa. I represent Northern Manhattan, the other tip of the island, and I'm happy to be the co-vice chair of this wonderful progressive caucus. So when we talk about justice, we can't have this conversation without centering economic justice. And I want to bring up our majority leader, Keith Powers, and also, oops, my notes are flying away, and also we want to bring up Robert Desir from the Legal Aid Society to talk about their public banking and our public public banking package that will make sure that we are centering economic justice in communities that for far too long have suffered the consequences of redlining and greenlining and all the types of racist lining that has existed before. We're the Progressive Caucus because we're here to transform the direction this city has been going for working families for far too long. So with that, we bring up our majority leader.
Well, thank you for that. I know, did my job, I know. Thanks everyone, and thank you to Progressive Caucus, and I really want to thank the leadership of Progressive Caucus for not only doing a lot of work this year, but really getting us organized and putting out a really bold agenda for New York City. And having been a former vice chair of Progressive Caucus, I know how hard that actually is, so congratulations on that. All of these legislative packages are supporting the great work of the caucus, but are aimed at making our city fairer and a more equitable place for all. I have actually 3 bills that are in this agenda. One is what you heard about is the POOR Act, which is aimed at zero waste, which I'm really excited about. And 2 that I want to speak about. One is the Fair Chance for Housing Act. And the other is the Public Banking Package. Both are to create more access to housing and to create financial stability for vulnerable New Yorkers. And right now, as it doesn't need to be said, it's been so many times, we have a city that faces an unprecedented housing and homelessness crisis that's hurting so many members of our communities. And on any given night, there are over 60,000 people sleeping in a shelter, and that doesn't even include people that aren't being counted, or the people that are facing housing insecurity that don't make it into that number. And that's why we actually need to start taking big and bold action to get people into stable housing. And that is why I proudly reintroduced the Fair Chance for Housing Act earlier this year. With these guys. And why I'm urging my colleagues to sign on to the bill, and obviously urging the City Council to pass that bill as soon as possible. Without this important legislation, we will continue to see denial of people with criminal records who need housing, and this is of no matter how minor the offense or how long ago it happened, leaving tens of thousands of New Yorkers locked into an endless revolving door of homelessness and incarceration. And we can't let that continue, right? We can't. That's why we must support our most vulnerable neighbors, and this is a concrete step that we can take right now this session to do that. The second bill is a public banking package that supports the mission by laying the groundwork for creating a municipal bank here in New York City. We each year collect billions of dollars in taxes to fund public services. But most of this money, if not all of it, is placed into private banks, and more often we don't have a lot of transparency or accountability where that ends up. That means that we can be unknowingly financing things that will hurt communities or supporting harmful industries. This package, however, would make that more transparent by allowing New York to divest public money from places there it doesn't belong, and dedicating our tax dollars to investing in local communities, strengthening our economy, and advancing many of the social justice goals that we are talking about here today. And as no better time to do that as we're talking about a fiscal and economic crisis that is facing the city, I think no better time to be talking about that bill, and no better time to be talking about removing barriers to housing than right now when we are having a very large conversation in the city about housing and homelessness. So what I want to say is a big thank you to all my colleagues for supporting those bills. Thank you to Progressive Caucus for putting those on your agenda. And really thank you for everybody standing up here, because you guys are really moving the agenda forward. And I know you can be anywhere in New York City today right now, but being here means you are standing up for the things that matters to New Yorkers. And a very big thank you guys for being here today.
Majority Leader, for your support. So when we talk about the housing crisis, we know there are people that are much more vulnerable to homelessness, and those people are often swept up in mass incarceration, are swept up in high unemployment levels, and are swept up in discrimination that exists. So once they've paid their dues to society, they can't find stable housing because of housing discrimination. And today I want to shout out the Fortune Society who's here, CCA who's here, Community Voices Heard who's here, and the Legal Aid Society. We're going to hear from Robert on the Fair Chance for Housing bill that will transform and hopefully eliminate those
right.
barriers to housing. Robert?
All right.
Thank you, council member. Thank you to the Progressive Caucus on behalf of the Legal Aid Society and also the Fair Chance for Housing campaign. We urge the City Council to pass, and we urge the Mayor to sign Intro 632, prohibiting housing discrimination on the basis of an arrest or a criminal record is a racial and housing justice issue, as over 3/4 of New York City residents with convictions are people of color.
That's right.
DHA's data indicates that recent release from jail or prison is one of the main reasons that people enter shelter. Prejudice against them because of their past involvement with the criminal legal system significantly hinders their efforts to secure permanent housing. Without housing, they're also excluded from the benefits that it provides, such as safety, stability, health benefits, the ability to secure employment, and family reunification. Benefits that most of us take for granted.
That's right.
It must be recognized that people facing these obstacles don't just go away. They're still part of society. Except they're part of society, and their efforts towards full restoration are being frustrated by prejudicial practices that relegate them to the seemingly permanent instability and trauma of homelessness. This prejudice also increases the likelihood of recidivism. The homeless population is already specifically targeted with laws against loitering, sleeping in public, and panhandling. This lack of resources only increases the likelihood they will be further ensnared by the criminal legal system. The city shelter system in jails should not be a revolving door for people struggling simply because they don't have the stability that a home provides. Instead, they should have full access to housing, a resource that is critical to improving their circumstances. If someone's been punished for a crime, they should not be endlessly punished. There must be a path towards reacclimating into society. Stable housing is a critical, foundational component of that pursuit. We urge passage of Intro 632, and we urge that the government take steps to reacclimate this population into society, as it is a significant public safety and public health issue. Thank you.
So you all heard that we have a very large progressive caucus. I want to give a shout out to Council members Eric Botcher, who was here and joined us, Councilwoman Rita Joseph, who's our education chair and joined us today, and Councilwoman Julie Wong, who's here as well joining us. So we're running out of time because it's almost 2 o'clock, but I do want you all to put your hands together for a Progressive Caucus OG, our public advocate, Jumani Williams. She called you old, Jumani.
I'm coming to grips that I'm an OG. Me and Brad are OGs. It's hard, but I'm coming to grips. What's up, Progressive? How you doing? Peace and blessings, love and light to everyone. Thank you, council members, De La Rosa and Gutierrez, vice co-chairs, and the chairs, council members Hanif and Wrestler, and the entire caucus for all that they're doing now. I am proud to be an OG. I'm proud to be one of the founding members of the caucus, the Progressive Caucus. I am more proud of that whatever ground we laid is being surpassed by the courage of the council members. It's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And whenever we're in some space and time, there's always some people that want to conserve the inequity that exists, and some folks who want to progress forward. So I'm always proud to be part of the people who want to progress forward. It's also very ironic to me that there are sometimes leaders that want to push back and disparage progressives while proclaiming how progressive they are. And that says to me that progressive thinking is the right way to go. I'm proud to be a co-prime sponsor, myself and the chair, Councilmember Rivera, of Intro 549, which is the banned solitary bill. Society is going to look at how we treat our most vulnerable, and we are failing on so many levels. We lost our 17th person incarcerated just this week. That's right. Eric Tavera. This is happening time and time again. Rikers Island is in crisis. It is a moral blight and moral stain on our city, and has been for a very long time. The only thing that Rikers exists to do is perpetuate violence.
That's right.
And unfortunately, in times like this, we often see black and brown people pitted against black and brown people. So in this space, I'm going to lift up people who are on both sides of those bars and who are in danger. That is the people who work there, like corrections officers, who are being harmed, who are being molested, and people who are incarcerated, even worse, who are dying. They are dying, and as far as I'm concerned and understand, no one in Rikers has been sentenced to death.
That's right.
And so we have people on both sides of those bars who come from the same community, and whatever they're doing now is causing the violence. It is not working. It has nothing to do with my bill. What we do know is solitary is torture, and that cannot be a response to what is happening in that jail system. You cannot be a person who says they are against solitary and then be against the bill that bans it. So I'm very thankful for the Progressive Caucus for making this a priority. Now let's get one step further and be the city that actually bans solitary. Thank you.
No more deaths! No more deaths!
No more deaths! No more deaths!
No more deaths!
No more deaths. Now one more. So we're going to bring up some other advocates that have been helping us to move this forward. Because we are here advocating for legislation to be passed, but that doesn't happen without people power. So we're going to call on Candy from Hold Solitary to come up.
Yeah!
We're going to call on Jay Del Rio from the New Economy Project to come up. We're going to call on Albert Scott from the East New York CLC to come up. About how we're moving these bills forward with action on the ground.
Hello everyone, my name is Candy, aka Solitary Survivor. I use the alias Solitary Survivor because I survived solitary confinement. I spent 1,168 days on Rikers Island, and out of those 1,168 days, I spent 1,122 consecutive days in solitary confinement, where the officers abused me, starved me, neglected me. When I say neglect, I wasn't given toilet tissue. I wasn't given toothbrushes, toothpaste. The officers put their fingers in my anus. They used to rub my butt while they was putting handcuffs on me, acting like it was an accident when it wasn't. They used to fondle my breast, and what made it worse is that I had to wear a spit mask because an officer attacked me while I was coming out of my cell, rear cuffed, so I spat at her as a self-defense mechanism. And after that, they made me wear a spit mask, so I wasn't even able to see who was sexually abusing me, who was torturing me, most of the time because they had the spit mask over my eyes. Solitary confinement is absolute torture. I hate to sound grotesque, but if you're a woman and you menstruate, how would you feel if you were not getting sanitary napkins, let alone a shower? They would deprive me shower, recreation, food, and I don't even care about the food. They could starve me all they want to because the food had maggots and rodent feces, everything in it. It was absolute torture. I'll never be the same. They need to pass the bill 549 and end solitary confinement completely.
That's right.
I'm with New Economy Project, and I want to shout out our coalition partners in Public Bank NYC and the New York City Community Land Initiative. We are working with dozens of groups throughout the city to fight for game-changing policies and community organizing that will bring land and housing and community development into community ownership and control in Black and brown neighborhoods. We're fighting for a public bank that will make sure our public money is taken out of Wall Street banks that are harming our city, that are fueling and profiting from our affordability and climate crises and so much more. And instead, with a public bank, our public money will support community land trusts and truly affordable housing that New Yorkers desperately need. We will be able to invest in renewable energy and other solutions in frontline communities that need this. We are excited and
know it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Albert Scott with the East New York Community Land Trust, which is based out in East New York, but democratically led by East New York and Brownville residents. I'm here today and so excited to join these dynamic legislators in pushing this progressive pieces of legislation. One thing we know in East New York, and we found out, legislation has two tenets: modify behavior, direct the money, the land to the people. That's what it's supposed to be. That's why it's so urgent and incumbent on passing the land bank bill. In our community, we were able to pound the pavement and identify 255 vacant city-owned lots. The question you have to ask yourself, is it going to community or is it going to private developments? With legislation like this that will prioritize community land trusts, it will focus on community first. That's why I will always start off with community, then ownership must be followed. When there's ownership, there's more stability. Just think about that. In our community, we are tired for fighting for lottery. Because I don't think anyone won that $700 million that's coming up yet. So we are pushed from ownership principles to now fighting for lottery. It's all about community ownership, and it's very important that these dynamic bills, the land bank bills, the public banking bill, pass now. Community ownership! Community ownership! Have a great day.
Thank you all. So we want to thank, first of all of the groups and the coalition. Thank you, everybody that's here, whether your name was called or not, whether you're
they don't have a mic, so I don't know how the background sound is. I had a small mic, but I should have given it to you before.
Transformative change that our city has been waiting for.
How many of you are here?
And so we want to thank you all for coming out. We want to chat. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we win. We fight, we win. We win. And so we want to thank you all for coming. And if press has questions, they can. Gracias a todos por venir. Any questions?
We'll do questions on the side just because we got to give up the steps.